So the movie starts off like it was Tomb Raider, Indiana Jones or something, with vampires and Triple H. But instead of treasure hunting and pedigree in this, they were looking to revive something they shouldn't be. Like, how can we fuck up the world? Like the scientists and them damn dire wolves. Ancient being hunting with no real plan is kinda wild. Let me talk to management, because instantly it wasn't going in their favor. I started going crazy. Like the odds of them surviving was the same as Ryan Garcia winning after the second round. The NPCs started losing their heads faster than the cheer does their eyes. But can we get a flash warning? We are not sweet. We need our eyes. It was like our pupils were invited to a disco, a movie screening on top of Neptune's head. Anyway, we move on. We get to Blade doing his favorite pastime of hunting vampires, and boy, they must have been stressing him out. He out there rocking the George Jefferson with a widow's peak, and that bitch was peaking. It was like his sides were trying to pull the rest of his hairline down to the pits of recession with it. My cut looking like this, I'm bound to crash out a little as well. Would have had me acting like Bishop once he got that 38 in his hand. And look, this was fun to him. I know I said this in my last Blade video, but come on, you don't see it? Instead of moving with a tent, chasing down the escaping cockroaches, he A-town stomped a burning skull. Like it wasn't about the advantage anyway. Like he needed to prevent a forest fire. Like calm down, Smokey the Bear. It was gonna be gone within a second. So after making sure they all got to their car safely like a worried mother, he decided to get active, flipping over one of the cars and was like, fuck it, I don't really need to turn around for real. And started posing like he was about to do a Naruto run and got the bussin'. Now before I skip, let's talk about this brief exchange with these vampires. They came out of the building instead of hiding into Blade's left, running directly in front of his guns like a judge at one of those bodybuilding contests, and they were trying to see some biceps. But Blade wanted to have a good time, and the gun would have ended it too fast. So he just stood there like he was partaking in the mannequin challenge until a third vampire charged at him, burning up like he was Cyndaquil.
He copied my whole fucking flow!
Just to get Sparta kicked, like no resistance, like his goal in life was to be hurt by Blade. And Scott McCall over there hissing like a house cat instead of helping his co-worker. Nigga, help him. And Blade put away his gun and took out his knife on a string like he was Scorpion and got the slicing, handing out 2 pieces with no bev, stealing souls, ripped that bitch out like,
get over here!
Then started dancing, stunting and profiling on the fourth that died before he saw how the performance ended. We move on. Blade returned after filming the Michael Bay movie, pure mayhem and explosions. Whistler was trying to warn him that he was getting a little too reckless and he better hope no one can ID him, just foreshadowing a little bit of the plot. But Blade didn't care about none of that. He started complimenting the knife that he used against the father vampires. He was so passionate about purifying vampires. We cut over to the main antagonist as they try to talk to the thing that was snacking on him at the beginning of the movie, Dracula, who looked like he could be twins with Jeeper Creeper. Don't tell me that nigga Jeeper Creepers was a vampire as well. Anyway, Dracula turned from a Power Ranger supervillain into a human form, so he could bully this vampire who's pleading for his blood so they can daywalk. I'll say this, they are passionate, one-track mind, sort of like Ryan Garcia and his left hook strategy. But this lady was giving this Dracula a grocery list of things she needed, like he was the Klaus Michelson of this universe. Let me get your blood, kill Blade. What can you do? So they gave us a scene trying to introduce us to another vampire hunter in the movie, and the only thing that did was make me believe I could run a fade with about 82% of the vampires in this franchise and win easily. First off, do they really make niggas wait for the train where it's darker than the actual outside? And the 2 of these vampires need to have their makers exterminated. Because why are you producing ass like this? They rushed Abigail, ripping what they believe to be her baby from her arms, as they were planning on treating it like a combo meal. But 1 baby for 2 vampires? That can't be enough blood, like the little ass juice boxes they give you in the Happy Meals. And this is where the ass begins. They ripped free the baby doll and held it in the air like it was Simba, until they used the R. Kelly secret art and pissed in one of their eyes, and he just started screaming like that one female TikTok rapper, causing everyone to pause for a second, like Adam Sandler and Click. And the vampires, I have to put air quotes around that, like Brian Griffin. I'm not a believer. You can't convince me that them niggas are immortal murderers and not your run-of-the-mill New York street thugs doing subway activities, because they turned back towards Abigail and she kicked one of them. Deadass just kicked him, and he fainted like Abigail was putting on a Michael Jackson level performance. And the second one waited for her turn to feel the kick, hugging the wall, and they started dying. This was not a threat. Nothing that was happening here seemed threatening. And I'm not trying to take away from Abigail, she's going crazy, but these have to be the G League of vampires. She was running hands with them and winning. She overpowered another and flipped him over her shoulder. Who in the hell is her teacher, Steven Seagal? Because he's the only master that can train you until you ascend beyond your humanity. Because look, she became a Quincy for a little second. And just like Whistler was trying to warn Blade, who was out there being bloodthirsty, trying to find different extreme ways to kill vampires, like consequences don't exist, the vampires wised up and became your local unfriendly neighborhood Karen, pointing their fingers at Blade as they called the police. It was like they had a recollection.
I'm white!
and was gonna use the police to take care of that light work. You would think if the police cared, it would have started in the first movie when he was eating bullets in the hospital like they were shot from a Pez dispenser. So Blade got taken and Whistler was dead again, this time for real. And now he was in custody of vampire familiars when the group of main antagonists arrived. When this girl jinxed their entire op because her words were like a summoning spell.
You're all alone, Blade. No one's gonna help you now.
Man, you stupid bitch.
Bringing Deadpool in to aid Blade, because after he gave Blade his medical pacifier, Blade got up, and you know when it comes to vampires, he gotta put on a performance. And in that exact moment, Triple H became nothing but a paper plane. I could have sworn MIA wrote a song for this exact moment. Then he started strolling, sauntering, damn near going on a leisurely walk. Abigail showed up at the prison with a bow, and I hope like hell that these vampire guns just ran out of bullets and they weren't running from medieval weaponry when they had modern day problem solvers. Having escaped from the cops with his old ass Bronco, Blade and Deadpool exchanged some dialogue.
Well, my name is Hannibal King. And this little hellion right here is Abigail.
Before they tell him that Dracula has returned, then drops some of his lore on him like he was a History Channel. It was perfect time too, because without the knowledge Hannibal dropped, I would be wondering why Dracula was just slow walking through the town until he came along a mom and pop Newberry comic, where he started eating a female because they were using his IP without his permission. Blade and the Night Stalkers go on their first mission together, and this nigga is just Deadpool that hunts vampires.
Listen to MP3s when she hunts. Me, I'm more of a David Hasselhoff fan, you know?
Blade had to be reviewing some Batman game footage before the op, because he went instant psychological torture to get the information he wants. Had that man dangling like a booger on the nose of a garbage pail kid, and that led him to the same doctor from the interrogation room. But by the time Blade and him arrived, Dracula was already there trying to cosplay as a doctor, but was caught faster than a Scooby-Doo villain, blaming their downfall on a group of high school students. And Blade upped his gun so fast, this nigga will be a cheat code if you ever played a game that requires you to hit a buzzer. Too bad Dracula was more limber than we thought, and hit a yoga pose to avoid the headshot like Tobey Maguire in the paparazzi. But Blade, was it a one shot from the fucking 1800s? He stood up mad slow, just mean mugging. Blade, do me a favor, act like a spring break and take another shot. Now here's where the plan lost me. Dracula shoved the table at Blade. Of course he dodged it, but he only needed a brief moment to take Hannibal as a meat shield. But if I was Blade, I'm sorry, Hannibal would be a damnable as I try to liquefy his body with these shots, as I try to put Dracula on his shirt. In fact, we got a verbal agreement. A life for a life, equivalent exchange. Like, they watched this man stab Hannibal and flip out the window. Blade did hawk him down. He's not one to turn away from a fade, especially from a vampire. And they had a long ass chase scene with this man Dracula stealing babies. Was this nigga the first Epstein? They had a brief conversation with this nigga Dracula hitting a Kobe, 3-point shooting a baby before leaving. They had 2 missions with Blade, and she was already sulking in the shower. It is not looking good for the team, but they had a chance to redeem themselves because she and Blade went to get some answers from this vampire and captain of police, and Blade was a pimp once upon a time. This slap had passion, a tent behind it, had her rolling like a bowling pin, cosplaying Sonic before she was smoked, leaving him with only the captain to get answers from.
Can't tell you, they'll kill me.
Kill you, motherfucker. I'll kill you.
This man Blade said vampire, familiar, it makes no difference. His hatred for both of them is mandatory. None of them is getting any leeway. He used the captain to get inside the building, and it looked like a Jeffrey Dahmer wet dream. All you see is
Tiana, Khadijah, Lenny Carvel, him, her.
Once they were inside, the captain started giving a tour like he worked at a museum, and the more he spoke, Blade hatred started to rise. Blade gave the captain false hope like he could survive before blowing his back out. Yeah, the entire team really didn't last that long. Dracula cosplay Whistler sent them all on an early trip to the afterlife, leaving only 2 of them alive, Zoe and Hannibal, which Blade and Abigail went to rescue. But Blade is comedy. You have Abigail stressing, feeling that raw pain of loss, and Blade standing behind her repeating,
Use it.
like a goddamn parrot. Shut the hell up. What, you expected to turn to Goku when you watched Krillin get popped like a pimple? Armed with their vampire Persian arrow, they went to have their fate with Dracula. And Blade was enjoying himself, making light work of the NPCs. This is the second time Triple H got handled by Blade with proficiency, like he was a veteran at FedEx. Tripling and handling was in his blood at this point. Like, what is he even doing at this point? Patty kicking a nigga's face is a step beyond disrespectful. Even Abigail was having an easy time. Why do they even want to walk in the day? They should be using that time out of the sun to practice their hands, because all of them were trash on a hot summer day. All incompetent. Even the freaky ass dogs went outside. I bet in that moment they wished they was in the arms of an angel.
Really, nigga?
But now we are on for the main course. Blade sharing hands with Dracula. And of course, you have to commence a squabble with words of encouragement.
Blade, ready to die.
I was born ready, motherfucker.
Motherfucker. I like that.
Dracula started sprinting across the table just to wait for Blade to take his jacket off. It was kind of him, I'm not gonna lie. I wouldn't do it. If you were born ready, the jacket would have been off. But once Blade got done customizing his character, they started mixing like Neapolitan ice cream, swords bouncing off each other. Then the cameraman cuts to Hannibal squabbling with Triple H. Triple H is a vampire, right? He was keeping up with the old Bronco, right? Why in the 4 letters of hell did Ryan walk down on a vampire like he was getting ready to squabble with a normal nigga? Out there tossing overhands like he was an MLB pitcher. Triple H hitting the Fat Joe. My God, you did not need to lean. It was like Ryan Hands had that fortune told. It was destined to miss, like Charles Barkley at the 3-point line. Never mind. This man Triple H just pissed me off. He was out there just swinging like he reviewed Ron Garcia fight footage when he was fighting Tank Davis. Damn near the Sprouse brothers of squabbling. And to make matters worse, how are you getting stalled on as a vampire? Do you not have speed? How did you let him catch your punch? Do you not have strength? I just have one more question. How many backhands did you order, nigga? He was just standing there, face exposed, excited to feel knuckles against his cheeks. Then finally, Triple H realized he was stronger, but decided to do this. I'm starting to think Triple H was flirting with this man, because staring this long into another nigga's eyes, breathing each other's breath like halitosis photosynthesis is wild. Beat my ass and start longingly staring into my eyes. Nah, never mind. Might take beat my ass the wrong way. Ryan did not want to partake. Peep the face. Man shut his lungs like a cheap nigga in their wallet, but caught the itis after eating a peanut butter and knuckle sandwich. The cameraman cuts back to Blade and Dracula, and they're still going at it. And if you ask me, Blade got the upper hand. Blade was controlling the hell out of that sword. Proper one sword style, grace and finesse, while Dracula was moving his sword like his goal was to cut the world in half. Who hits a spin mid-fence if they were feeling any pressure? The pressure must be a calm massage. You can't tell me it doesn't look like Blade was coaching him right now how to use the sword. Redirecting it had him crashing out. He never knew there was levels to using the blade until he met Blade. But when the cameraman cuts back, I don't know what happened. We just have this nigga rolling around on the floor like that can of ravioli in that one commercial. But the inconsistencies in strength got me wondering, how many niggas wrote this movie? Did they forget who's a vampire and who was a human? Had Hannibal out there, Alberto Del Rio and a vampire, into the rabbit Wolverine, Chris Benoit, getting his arm snapped. The cameraman was working overtime. Back to the main squabble, and Dracula was stressed. Man was swinging his arms like a bat. Okay, Babe Ruth. Man went from sword fighting to trying to badge Blade like a pinata, changing his game strat, channeling his inner Gabbly Douglas, flipping on the table, had Blade confused, stupefied. Man got his sword stuck in the wall like an amateur. Blade, come on, this is your 3rd movie. You can't be making mistakes like this. Dracula was just out there doing shit. He ran towards the end of the table, then turned back around, re-engaging in a sword fight. Still no better. Nigga ran looking for some help, and then realized the other vampires were more ass than the street of Miami during spring break. Blade had the upper hand during the entire exchange, even whipping out his good old reliable spin kick. You know it can't be a Blade movie without a spin kick. Blade, aka the spin kick demon, had Dracula stumbling and bumbling into the table, taking another back shot. The cameraman was not entertained with these fights, jumping back and forth between them like he was Rene Dupree, and Triple H was still fighting Hannibal. What is going on? Acting like this. This was as cool as a summer day during a heat wave. You should have never had your arm broken to begin with. Who cares, you can heal. You should have never let it happen. He had to redeem himself. He started digging his WWE bag. Back to Blade, and we have a trash can trying to get involved. Look at the smile on his face. The thought of being useful was enticing. Got himself caught in the ribs by an arrow. Can't even sneak right. And I could tell the writers at this point did not care. They had vampires march through the door with pistols, and they lost to a bow. Oh my God. She was standing there like a Statue of Liberty. She was not moving, but they were missing. Getting bodied like this is wild, like the Thornberries. Back to Blade one more time. I think Dracula's best chance was to run pure hands, because he was not gonna best Blade in the art of swords. I don't think Blade lost in a pure sword fight before in any of the movies, if I remember correctly, because the fight is not really looking that challenging for Blade right now, if I'm being honest with you. But 1 second though, I have to talk about this nigga Triple H. I don't even know what to say besides this. You are trash, Triple H. Go back to WWE. Blade started moving around Dracula's guts like he was a plumber trying to clear the pipe, releasing punches like his hands was a P90, and you can tell Drac felt them in his spine. But look, I told you, pure hands is his strong suit. One hit had Blade floating like a float during the Macy Day parade. But never mind, Blade returned a favor. But Dracula was different and started flying like he was Superman, meeting Blade in the middle, causing him to drop his sword. I really thought this was gonna be Blade's downfall. Never mind, he was still trying to mix. But once this happened, it was wraps. Man hit the hug me brother, then Charizard both of them to the ground, turning back into his Power Ranger villain form, and started licking Blade's face. What the f? This is not that type of fight. No makeup sex is involved. Freak ass. But it was a point of the fight for Blade to now get worked. He was clocked in and was ready to begin his shift. It's just that everything he did meant nothing. Kicked this man in the back of the head just to be thrown across the room. Then saved by Abigail. Come on, Abigail, let Blade have his moment. You can't shine, man. You just killed like 550 vampires. You did your part. Let Blade shine on Dolo. She came in there with her archery like she's a Quincy. I already told you, she's in her Quincy art. Use her special arrow, causing all the surrounded vampires to become deceased. Saving Hannibal, who was being worked in the corner, which just multiplied the fact that Triple H was ass. What's the word? Barsuda? Some shit like that. This might be the weakest Blade out of all three of them. Me personally, I might say number one's my favorite. Hey, let me know what's your favorite. 1, 2, or 3. I hope you enjoy it. Until next time, take care.